Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another interview with another staff member that we've got with us today. We've got Stephanie Paisley with us. So Steph is the events operations manager at the club. So she deals with match day events, as well as other community events and big projects that relate to the club's branding and marketing. So she plays a big part at the club in making sure you guys come to our events and have fun and enjoy it. Welcome, Steph. How are you?
Hi, Abraham. I'm very well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks for joining us. I know a lot of the young people would love to learn more about events because they do attend a lot of our events. So it'd be good for them to see the other side of it, how to manage, how you manage them, and how you make it engaging and fun for everyone that comes to these events. So the first question is, I've obviously spoken a little bit about your role, but what is your role at the club and what is your day-to-day task involved? It may look fun to everyone, but what is really your task?
So as you say, I'm the event operations manager. So I guess the main part of my role is running the match days. So at Amy Park, so for A League and W League and also the Y League. And I mainly focus on the operational side of things. So just essentially making sure that all of the different components come together to become, I guess, the show that the fans see. So it's just managing people, getting everyone in the right place at the right time, managing timelines, key stakeholders, external suppliers, and basically creating the event that we're running. But so it's as much for match days as for fan engagement events. So for the fan engagement events, some of them are on a much smaller scale, but similarly, it's just bringing together the right people at the right time.
Yeah, and I've seen the work you do. It's a lot of work that goes in the background, where it takes in a lot of effort. It looks fun from the outside, but what made you want to take this pathway? Was there an inspiration? Was it a dream role? Because as I mentioned, it looks fun from the outside, but the inside it's a lot. So why do you want to get into it?
I guess I got into event management or sport 7 years ago. I started working in sport. I guess it was a series of chance encounters, really. I knew when I left uni that I wanted to work in sport, and I met randomly a girl in the pub one day, and she started telling me about the company that she was working for, which was a tiny little agency that I'd never heard of. And I didn't really pay it much attention at first, and maybe it was a month later that I started looking into it again, and I couldn't believe it. I'm so glad that I did, because I guess I discovered they'd just signed a contract with the Brazil national team. I have a great passion for Brazil in general, so this sounded like an opportunity not to be missed. And knowing I wanted to work in sport, I was definitely more passionate about playing sport than working in sport, than watching sport. But I also spoke languages, so I sort of played on that fact. And interviewed with Pitch International, and I'm very, very grateful that I got the opportunity to work with them, because I then spent the next 5 years working on the Brazil Global Tour in the event space. So it was a new space to me. I'd just left university, so I didn't really know which direction I wanted to go in sport, but I knew that I wanted to work in sport, and this is, I guess, just what I found. And so I just grabbed the opportunity where it came, and I'm really glad I did. It's been an amazing 5 years that eventually ultimately led me to Melbourne and to Melbourne City. It's been an interesting pathway.
Yeah. And that leads on to my next question was, what was the biggest project you worked on? Because I know I've seen some photos where you were at Melbourne City, but you're working for another organization, Pitch, as you mentioned, that was bringing the Argentinian team.
Yeah, funny you came across that. Indeed, yeah. So that we were working for the Brazil. So we did the Brazil Argentina game at the MCG. That was a pretty amazing game. That was a sellout. We sold out the MCG for that match, but we had Argentina training at Melbourne City's training ground, so City Football Academy, which is what obviously introduced me to Melbourne City. Hence, what I mentioned earlier, sort of the series of encounters that has sort of led me to Melbourne and to Melbourne City Football Club, I guess, is just the people that I've met along the way. But yeah, the biggest event I'd probably say I've worked on is Star Sixes. Star Sixes was a six-a-side tournament that we created in London, and essentially the reason I say it was the biggest is probably, while it might not have had as large an attendance as, say, the Brazil-Argentina game did at the MCG, it was a tournament that we set up from scratch to the point of essentially writing the rules and the regulations. So it was a global tournament. We had 12 teams participating, I think, six-a-side teams, and they were all sort of football legends. So we had Ronaldinho playing for Brazil. We had Pires playing for France. We had various, it was massive organization with about 120 legend players, a new venue. We built the goals, we built the pitch, we built the stands, the rules and regulations, and
Wow.
The marketing around it. So it was quite, we were sort of learning as we went, and it was quite stressful, but thoroughly enjoyable, and quite exciting to get our teeth into. So that's probably the biggest.
Yeah, that's good. That's good to hear that. So obviously there's a lot of work, as I've mentioned before, and what gets you up in the morning to say, hey, I love my job? Is there a memorable moment that you might have throughout your career?
I would say, well, yeah, I mean, the reason I get up in the morning, or the reason I love working in sport or working in football, I'd probably say there's just the passion that surrounds the game. So kind of wherever you go, like, I guess I've been quite blessed to be able to travel both with work and some of my own personal ventures. And wherever you go, the power, like, I guess the one common thread in everywhere that I've been has been a football pitch. It's the one thing you find everywhere in the world. And the smiles that it brings to people's faces is something that I've always really enjoyed, be it in the stadium, be it out on the pitch, be it wherever. And certainly in the community space, I think it's something, again, that brings people together, just through the passion that people feel for it. I guess my most memorable moment is actually playing soccer in the Amazon. I was
Wow.
teaching English in the Amazon, and I took part in a tournament. Essentially, we were about 46 hours northwest of Manaus, which is the capital of the Amazon, and teams travelled up to a day to turn up to this tournament, to actually play in the tournament. And that, I guess, is just a sign of, how much people are willing to. They would have never done such travel for any other reason other than football, really, or sport, or participation. So that's, I think that was a clear sign of the love that can be felt.
Yeah, like the actual Amazon?
Yeah, the Amazon in Brazil,
Oh, wow.
which is where my love for Brazil came, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a good time. I spent 3 months teaching English there.
Yeah, no, that's good. What educational pathway did you take to get into this, or how can people? What educational pathways can people take to do what you do?
Honestly, when I started university, I had no idea which direction I wanted to take at the end of it. So I guess I picked quite a generic course. I did maths and French, which obviously has now got very little to do with what I actually do. But I guess it set me up in good stead. I think certainly my uni degree was more about proving that I'm capable of achieving something. Not so much proving it. It didn't necessarily lead me to football or to sport, but although I think the languages certainly helped me get my first job. But yeah, in terms of, I think I would take the university degree with a pinch of salt and keep it sort of open if and not be scared of not knowing what you want to do at the end of it or with it.
And you said you wanted to prove something. Was that to prove to yourself or?
To myself, and also I guess to have something on my CV, but I'm not sure if it's necessarily, I don't think that's necessary. I think there's many other ways of proving yourself without having to have a university degree on your CV. But I do think you need, I think you need a certain level of determination to be able to get around that, because it is often it's the first thing that people ask for. Definitely there are ways around university degrees, but it's just another way of showing that you're meaningful, I guess, about what you want to do.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. And being a female in a management role in sports, what is it like? Is it challenging? Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, it's a funny one actually, because I guess, well, I've never actually felt outnumbered. So in the world, in our sort of sports bubble, I'd actually say we've got quite even numbers in the office at Melbourne City, and I think we had quite even numbers, quite an even balance between men and women at Pitch International, where I was before. Yeah. But having said that, you do look up and you see far fewer women, I guess, in higher, kind of in the top leadership roles in comparison to men. So while I do honestly think that things are changing, I definitely think there's still a barrier for women in terms of, I guess in terms of how far you can go. I think that barrier is slowly being eradicated, and I certainly feel blessed to be part of a club that looks after its women and promotes women within the industry as much as kind of in participation in general. Be it in particular through, the W League team. We've probably got one of the best facilities for the W League. Our program, some of the programs that we run, such as This Girl Can and Soccer Mums, that promote female participation, and I think go a long way in sort of helping break down barriers and wipe away stereotypes in many ways, and help, I guess, help, I guess, with the progression of women in the industry in general, and in society in general. So yeah, I feel quite proud to be a part of such a progressive club in that sense. But yeah, I do think there's a long way. There's definitely a long way to go.
Yeah, no, that's good. And look, I know you've worked match days with our young leaders, Blake, Zoe, and you've seen the other young leaders during match day, leading a few other things, programs and projects. What would your advice be for those young leaders?
Well, the ones you mentioned, I know I cannot fault them for their determination and for their proactive. They're a good proactive bunch, which is what I love about them. But certainly, I think in terms of working in events, I think it's just all about a certain energy. It's a certain determination, and certainly an ability to work under pressure, because things go wrong regularly, and it's how you deal with the things that you're not expecting that I think sets you apart in the event space, and being able to work with a certain amount of stress, I guess, and just being proactive and planning for the unexpected, and putting stuff in place as early as possible so that you limit the risk.
Yeah, no, that's all good, very good advice.
And but also enjoy it.
Enjoy.
A massive part about my job is the fact that I love it. And I think it would be a very different matter if I didn't.
Yeah. And look, I'd like to make one comment as well. I've seen Steph stay back in the office very late sometimes, because it does take up a lot of work to organize an event and to manage people and rely on others as well. So she puts in the work, the effort. So she's good. And if you have any more questions, please feel free to email me or send me a text message. But thanks, Steph, for your time. Really appreciate that. And I know the young leaders and our participants will enjoy this interview and your knowledge.
Thanks, Abraham. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks. See you guys.
See you soon.